Good afternoon, everyone. Back again with one of my sad videos on the Vewlix cab. I did a overview video before, just sort of giving a sort of general opinion on all the elements of the cab at once. But I thought I'd do a slightly more detailed look at the control panels now, just because there's a couple of issues that people should know about when you get these. Very small, minor things to fix, but I just thought I'd just show you how to do that and what the problem is, and then a slightly more detailed look at my setup for connecting to consoles, because I didn't actually show you guys the actual connectors I'm using, and I've now got the cab pulled out the back now, so we can actually get around the back of the cab and have a proper look. So first things first is when you get a Vewlix cab, as opposed to the Vewlix cabs come with the sticks that stick out way too high. Now I fixed it on mine, but they stick out like a centimetre or centimetre and a half too high, and it's almost comical how bad it looks. So I think regulation on most fight sticks is about 2.4 centimetres between the bottom of the stick and the bottom of the ball. So this one, annoyingly, the tape measure, take my word for it, that's about 2.5 I've got it down to, so it's very close to the proper regulation height. Now when you get this, you'll see the reason that they normally stick out too high is because the bracket on the back here, you'll see I've inserted about 7 washers in. Let me get that focused, but you'll see there's about 7 washers in there that I've inserted between the control panel with the silver metal part here, which is where the buttons sit, and then there's a mounting plate that the sandwire sticks come with, and then there's the thread that goes through to this nut. So I've worked out you can get about 7 washers on each one. So I've repeated that process by just inserting washers into that gap. So it's a very simple fix of just unscrewing this, pulling the whole unit out, threading some washers back on to the thread, and then putting the stick back on again, and that just adds that extra centimetre of height, which reduces it from 3.5 down to 2.5 centimetres, or 25 mils. And that gives you the correct stick height. So yeah, important if you want it to feel proper and not look terrible. It's almost unplayable with before I did that fix. So yeah, just an important an important point to note. So I had the phone upside down there. That's quite an important point to note. And then the second point is on this part here. So there's a secondary cover that goes over the top of the control panel, which lifts off like this. It literally just lifts off entirely. And it sits here, and it sits with a bracket that goes into that hole, and it comes with a screw in there. I've just taken mine off because it still fits quite nicely without having the screws, but it does come with screws in there. Now you need to take this off to be able to feed wires down into the cab, but if you can't take that off, it's a bit of a problem. So the first screw I had in here came off no problem, but the metal that the screws come with are really soft, poor quality. So you've got to be really careful when you take the screws off, particularly this part, that you don't mess the thread up on. Sorry, not the thread, the Phillips notch in the top of the screws, not to strip them, because you'll have a massive job to try and get them out. Now luckily there is also a nut that goes just underneath this, that would sit in underneath that hole, and you can see I've had a real job getting it off. So I ended up using pliers to sort of rip it off to get it out, but it is doable if you had the same problem. But it was a bit of a manufacturing fault in that the nut was really tight, and then the screws were ridiculously soft. So just bear that in mind. Just be careful when you take that off. And other than that, everything else works. This is the latch for opening and shutting. So when you turn the key, it's just a very simple latch which catches onto the hooks here. That's how that all works. And then I thought I would also just give a bit of an update of how I've hooked up my Brook connectors. So I've deliberately pulled out the jammer harness that was hooked in here. So you see these Molex connectors here for player 1 and 2. So the player 1 was sort of situated here, and the player 2 was over here. And then there was a Molex connection that went through and connected to all of these wires. I literally just chopped them off and then used wire strippers to just strip the wires off, and then screw them into the terminals here. And then there's just the USB that feeds off, goes all the way down through the hole, and then plugs into some USB extensions, which I'll show you through the bottom of the cab here. So I bought these USB extensions here off Amazon. Blue one's just 1 meter long enough to do it. So I think the cable that comes with the standard USB cables like 1 meter. So I've got an extra one to make it 2 meters, and that's plenty. And then those then just plug into the back of the Xbox. If I just come around the back, they just plug into the Xbox here. And then this is the box for audio visual, which takes the DVI signal that the monitor needs, and it would take an input of HDMI, which is this wire here, which goes into the back of the Xbox. So you can see there's HDMI out to TV through that box, and then splits it into DVI and audio, which goes to the speakers. But I'll probably do a slightly more in-depth look at that when I do the monitor deep look. And that's it for this video. I just thought it was quite an important fix to look at. Any questions on that, by all means ask me, or if anyone's got any better way of doing it, there's probably a better fit for just chucking 7 washes in, so please do tell me if there's a better part or better way of doing that by adding it into the description. And yeah, if you like this, just give me a like or subscribe, and really appreciate it. And just look out for future videos. Thanks, bye.